Hi, guys. Ground fog. Hello there. You're first in. Had a cook supper, and tonight was my night to cook supper. We did ham and dressing and cranberry and turkey gravy and English peas, onion, cranberry, lots of cranberry. And then we had an old favorite of mine from childhood as a dessert, which is peaches and pound cake. You take a pound cake and slice it real thin, and then you make like a little log cabin, and then you put the quarter peach slices into the middle of it, and you pour peach juice over the whole thing, slide it in the microwave for like 20 seconds, then you put Cool Whip on the top. Yeah, good stuff. 2020, good evening. Justin, good evening. Kodak, hello. Herbert, hello. White Oak, hello. Zod Seeker, hello there. Jonathan Frisbee, hello, brother. Hope you're feeling good. Elvin, hello. Cap Bart 1, good evening to the Illinois River. Bob B, hello there. Bear's in the house. How you doing, Bear? How's the little ones doing? And hello to the nieces and nephews. How y'all doing? Stacy Sparks, hello from West by God. Awesome. Ed's doing pretty good. Full right now, but other than that, Jeff Conley, hello. It's one of them things whenever you start eating it, it's just so good. You just keep eating and like, oh God, you're gonna be a nap coming. Oh yeah. Okay, we'll get through this. I may fall asleep in the middle of it, but I'll be all right. It was a beautiful day today in Alabama. It was cool temps, felt good. It's not supposed to rain until Saturday and then Sunday, and then it'll move on through, and then it turns back cool again. But it's supposed to be in the highs of the 60s, and the low tomorrow night's in the 50s. So yeah, it'll be wet, and it'll be wet, and then it will turn cold, and then it will warm up, and it'll rain, and then it'll drop again. That's just our cold, wet winters. That's the way it goes. Lonnie, good evening, Western Pennsylvania. Jeff, hello to Nevada. Woo. Good. Glad that the kids are doing well, Bear. And the Dinky Doos are doing all right. Yeah, I'm reworking a kitchen, remodeling a kitchen right now, and it's just today it was reworking all the wall plugs to the new wall plugs. So you got to pull this 40-year-old heavy wire out, which is about as stiff as a fishing pole. Like trying to get it out of the wall, and it don't want to come out. And then get it put back together and pushing it back in and making sure everything green lights and it's all good. So, Common Sense Karen, thank you very much. Brian Turley, hello there. Well, have you got your Christmas shopping done for everybody? That's going to be one of the big questions. I haven't got many to buy for anymore, but stay busy. And I got a few I got to pick up something for. Of course, I'm planning on going to the woods as soon as I get the opportunity and go sit in a deer stand. Hopefully, this weekend sometime it'll be raining. Rain is a good time to go hunting, especially if you got someplace got a cover over it or something like a shooting shed or a blind that's already got some sort of roof over it. Just sit there. They don't like that cold, wet rain no more than we do, and they move around more. So you get a better chance to catch them moving around. Benton, good evening. White Oak. Midlife Wanderings. Hello there. Like the title. Ryan Ball, hello there. Edge 13. Yeah. I love hammock camping in the winter. I mean, once you figure out how to do it and stay warm, and it's not severe cold, but the coldest my personal record in a hammock now was this year when we went down to 6. Before that, it was in the teens. So it can be done. Dan Lutz. Me and him were developing a hammock heater for the dead of winter. And he scoffed at it. And I made a prototype and sent it to him. And it was with wind chill 10 below in Ohio. And he went out and got in it. And he said, yeah, it was all right. I figure I'd get cold in about a half hour. And he dozed off, take a nap. And about an hour later, he woke up just sweating. He was burning up and had to go back in the house. You know, it's like, what were you thinking? This thing's too hot. I said, well, I only told you to do it like this, and you went over the top. Well, yeah, it was going to be 10 below. Well, now you burn up. So one of these days, I'm going to bring that out. Ryan, glad you still enjoy it. Michelangelo, hello to Ohio. Yeah, Lane White, it's time. I'm going to be running our fireplace this year to heat up the main body of the house. And instead of relying, Paul, hello there, instead of relying on an electric heater, the electricity, I'll fire that thing up and, say about right after supper, fire up a good fire and let it run for about 3 or 4 hours before time to go to bed and let it die down. Well, that'll heat up all the walls, make a big old ball of nice warm air, warm material. And then the heater ain't got to work so hard during the night, Got one of them tickles. Well, peppermint candy works great for me. Peppermint and whiskey works even better for those that do alcohol. And when I get it like that, I just normally, in fact, I did have it. I think I done took them out of here now. I normally carry a thing of really strong peppermints or something and just pop it in my mouth, and that normally helps, at least with me. But I got that old geezer cough. I got so much lung damage on this side that, just the way it is. They wanted to take one lung out about 15 years ago, and I said no. It's still working, sort of. Oh, Justin, you gonna try the more of the bacon? Diane, hello to Indiana. Captain Bart, at the moment, no, and I'm waiting on them right now. We got behind because of Jay having to go in for emergency gallbladder surgery. And so he contacted me on Sunday and said he had shipped out the haversacks. The blackbirds are en route to me right now. The rucksacks were supposed to ship today, coming, the nighthawks. And they still ain't showed up yet, which I'm betting it's the holidays and everything. And when you're shipping something out of West Virginia, it just seems to take forever for them to get them out of the mountains. But I don't have any laying around right now. And as soon as I can get these in and send them out, and I feel bad, really, guys. I feel bad because of, I say we're going to hit a certain time frame, and I'm flexible. I understand life gets in the way, but once we go past a certain threshold, it really starts bothering me. And because I know people are counting on me, and I want to get them their bags. I understand it was an unexpected thing. It just still, I want to get them shipped out because I know everybody wants them in before Christmas, and I do too. I want to get every one of them out of here. I've already got all the envelopes and everything ready to go. As soon as it shows up to me, I'll be folding and stuffing. I may just hoodwink the postal guy and say, sit here. I'll hand them back to you in 5 minutes. So we shall see. Lonnie, I'm glad you like it. I've got even more little things coming. There's going to be an adapter so you can put Molly pouches and Alice pouches onto the outside of the Nighthawk. There's the sustainment pouches, which are going to be called the Sparrowhawks. They're in development right now. I've got prototypes right now that I'm field testing, and I'm going to make a longer version and a short version to see which works out better. So there's a whole bunch more coming in that design. Papa, how well does cedar work for those deep south skeeters? Not very well. Some, but not great. As far as an insect repellent, the best thing we got down here in the south is American Beautyberry. Is the best bug repellent. You take and crush it. Now cedar works good for any other kind of insect like roaches, ticks, all like that. Cedar shavings work good for that. But in fact, that's one thing you can do is take your clothes and just go by the pet store and get a bag of red cedar shavings. They're meant to go into a rabbit's cage or something to keep uh, fleas and stuff off of them, because no insect likes the smell of cedar. And so we just take our clothes and put them in a garbage bag with cedar, take a pair of nylon ladies' hose and pack the cedar in it and stuff it into the bag with them so it doesn't get all over everything. But it gets that cedar smell, and your clothes smell like cedar. It's a natural insect repellent. Permethrin works better, but the cedar don't hurt, and I have run them together before. Andy, good evening to South Georgia. Yes, you can reach me at right now. I'm going to give you a different one than I normally give. Hold on. I'll see if I can write it out where you can see it. Okay. Scalp Hunter 36330 at yahoo.com. Got it? Scalp Hunter 36330 at yahoo.com. Try that one. I check that every day. And so just send me something there and I'll be glad to talk with you. Good evening, Mr. John Kennedy. How you doing? Stacy Sparks, I hear you. I drove a truck, went through West Virginia many times, and it just up. And if you ever steamroll that thing out, it'd be half the size of Texas. Jason, yes, it should be available. They're available right now, and anywhere that you can get One Wind outdoors, just go to their website and look under shelters. There'll be tarps and shelters, and about scroll down just a little bit, and you'll see it sitting there. They're running around 40 something, $44, something like that for it. And then I think the whole set of the 2 ponchos and the mosquito net, I haven't dug and found that yet, but that's how they sent it to me. And so the 2 will zip together and make like a vestibule awning, and the other half being the sleeping area you saw with a half, or maybe one half be more than enough. But 112, good evening. Brian Holbrook, hello. Hobbs, hello to West Coast Canada. Wow, you're way out China. Yeah. Yeah, Brian, this you've got the standard jet stream we're used to. Well, it's way up high. And then you got the equator jet stream that normally runs about Cuba. It's moved up to about Maine. And between the two of them, they're kind of, so you're going to get cool, and then suddenly it's going to suck hot right up off the deserts, up way on up there into the edge of Canada. And then it rolls down and goes back up. So y'all going to have, like us, a wild winter of temperature swings. Sir Smoke Slide, hello there. Good evening, Diane. How you doing? Captain Bart, good evening. Good, John Kennedy. Good luck to you. Number one, Big Bear, hello. Welcome to the party. Edge 113. I bet that there is no flat land in West Virginia. If it is, it's a highway on it because there ain't nothing else. Ah, okay, Andy. Yeah, 70, 75. That sounds a little more on target there. Tibor, good evening. Ron Howard, hello. Tennessee Smoky, good evening. Garen, good evening. Teresa, good evening. Planet Wisconsin. Yeah, how long the Canadian stays in Canada. I hear you. But unfortunately, when it start doing that undulation, no place is safe. Fred, the individual ponchos run about 40 something bucks for that shelter / poncho, which I think is very reasonable. Really good quality. HK45C, good evening, Pennsylvania. Planet Wisconsin, how you doing? Miss C, hello to Buckley, Washington. Oh yeah, Tibor, I have seen those guys that there used to be a crop duster in North Alabama that was on the side of a mountain. I mean, it was like that. And he would land in a climb, go up to this little flat spot they had, turn around, refuel all the stuff because he was a crop duster, and then he would run down the hill and take off again. But I mean, it was like that. You couldn't walk up the thing, but he'd land on it. He'd come in and pull into a climb and land in a climb to go up tap, because that flat spot on top was about like 80 feet across, and that was it. And that's where they had all their tanks and stuff to refuel, and it turned and run down the hill again. He was impressive. Robert Nixon, hello there. Jennifer, hello. Bob, good evening. To Southwest Ohio. Smith Media Outdoors, hello there. Fred Freiberger, that, I'm getting to the age now where I don't want hardly anything. I mean, I've got so many things. I've got some of the greatest toys. All my WC knives, all my other knives, all my camping gear and everything else. And, that's why I'm fixing up the house. I've kind of ran out of bushcraft gear that I want. Oh, there's great stuff I want to try out, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like, yeah, I've got really, really, really good knife. I got a really, really good axe. Got a really, really good hammock, And you start running down the list of what do you really want? It makes it easier for Christmas shopping because wife says, "What do you want?" Subscription to this magazine. Okay, we'll do that. I think like 4 years in a row, I told her I wanted a subscription to Backwoodsman magazine, and that's what she bought me every year because that's what I wanted. Midlife Wanderings. It was kind of a mixed bag, and the thing about it is we will do a Silver Wolf patch, but the first one there's only going to be 20 of them, and that's what made the price so ridiculous, 20 something bucks a piece, because it was just so few of them. But we will probably, that's the first of the year, we're going to do a Silver Wolf patch, just plain, and that way we can get a bigger block of them at a much lower price for everybody. And we'll put that out there when that's done. But probably in January we'll start talking about that. Backcountry Tripper, good evening. Hello, Crow. How are things in the Tampa area? Plant, Wisconsin. Those heated vests can be a real good thing, especially in your really cold climate. Yeah. They've got so much stuff for the snowmobilers. They got the heated boots, heated pants, heated vests, heated jackets. I've even seen heated toboggans before, and which covers your face and all for severe conditions. Robert Nixon, we've not necessarily totally discounted it. You know, it's one of the things we just got to work out some logistics of how we're going to do this, because you got to give the money up front to the manufacturer. They ain't going to make them patches without the money. Well, I understand that. And so we got to iron down, okay, how many people are getting the first class patch, and etc. And we will get back to that very soon. I'm sorry I got off of it. I had a good friend die. Went to the funeral last Saturday. Yeah, this past Saturday. And it took some wind out of my sails a little bit. Friday. So we will get around to it again. Edge 13, glad to help. Marcus, yes. Trinity is still making the Condura version of the Blackbird haversack. She's still making those, and she's experimenting right now to create a Candura, whatever you want to call it, version of the Nighthawk. She's doing research on that right now. So, and do I ever wear a neck knife? I have worn a neck knife many times. Some of my very early videos, I'm wearing a neck knife. But yeah, especially when I'm doing stuff around camp, a neck knife just super handy for doing crafts and stuff. Tennessee Smoky, doing any squirrel hunting? Not nearly enough. I went out and sat about a week ago for a little bit, but I got a new flintlock, a 2-liter Chase that I'm working out. I'm getting a 1 ounce load in that I want to, smoke a few with them, so to speak. That's what I want to hunt with this year. I just got to get the time, and just seem the last month, guys, it's just been like blacky, which is great, and I'm not complaining, but it's just, there just ain't a lot of time to delve deep into anything for you. Got to stop and run. We got to go do this. And it's cold and flu season, and my wife's work has had several people out. We've had to radically change her schedule around, and so I drop her off, and I got 4 hours free to go and do videos, and then come back and pick her up and do this, and suddenly it's like you got an hour, and you got to be back, and we got to go over here. I thought retirement was supposed to be fun. Ryan, yes, I will be setting up. We were talking with Choir Boys and Dakota and me, and maybe a couple others are talking about doing a winter camp in January. Wait till we get a good cold front coming in, and we're going to do a like 2-day camp out, 3-day maybe, we'll see. And stress, doing stuff on winter camp and how to stay warm, how to do stuff. And I'm going to be doing the hot tent, both with a wood stove and other tips and tricks to try to mitigate and be in a hammock. So, but there will be some of that coming up. Brett Johnson, good evening. Paw, thank you very much. Washburn Billy, thank you. It was time. But when you've been friends with somebody for 40 years, it's still a loss. Planet Wisconsin, yeah. 2-liter Chase is basically a 20 gauge smoothbore shotgun that's a flintlock, and it'll shoot exactly the same load of equivalent 1 ounce load like you get out of a standard off the shelf 20 gauge. Just as powerful, everything. It just has a big explosion in front of your face when you pull the trigger. is the only difference. So you got to get on it, hold on it, and pull, and realize it's going to go poof right in front of your eyes. So, but yeah, that's the fun and the challenge of it. John Kennedy, any rough ideas on the spring gathering schedule? Also, say hey to Henry. Okay. Um, I'm thinking this is tentative. I'm thinking the second week of April is what I'm tentatively thinking. That way we would do the Silver Wolves classes on the first weekend of April, and then that will start on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, end on Sunday, and Sunday is when my gathering begins. And then it'll run to the next weekend. And so that way we can have a Silver Wolves class that first weekend and just roll it over into a regular gathering. So anybody wants to stay is welcome to stay. Anybody that's coming in for the classes come in then. Now I'll have to tell everybody up front, if you're going to come, you're going to be one of the paying people coming for the classes, for the instructors we're going to have, and etc. That's great. But if you're just coming for the gathering, you're not going to get the classes free. These people are paying money for this, so that's going to be separate. And so I tell everybody that wants to be, if you're coming just for the gathering, show up on Monday or after. If you're wanting to come for the classes, that'll be starting on Thursday. And I'll get the exact date, but I'm thinking 1st of April. Okay, because March 18th, I'm going to Kentucky to that big expo. I'm doing a class up there. Going to be, I think I'm on stage 3 times at that. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I think. Or is it Friday, Saturday, Sunday? I'll be on stage up there. And then that gives me enough time to get home, have a day or two, and then I got to have my gathering start. So I'm probably going to have to buy 2 cords of wood. Because I'm suspecting that it's going to be a cold wet, and that length of time, even though it'll be April, we may or may not be out of it yet. It drops, the temperature drops, it turns cold, it comes, it warms up, it rains, it drops immediately after. That's our cold, wet winters. And if that's true, I'll just have to get 2 cords of wood out there, so we got plenty of wood to heat with. Marcus Hibbett, I think he's moved on to other pastures. He just gonna do his negative stuff. If it makes him money, okay. But I just kind of feel sorry for the guy and tell him go ahead, but apparently he's moved on to somebody else now, and hope he finds something that is worthwhile to him. Washburn Billy, you got you a canner. Good. Yeah, Bear. We're supposed to be doing cannon videos. You be thinking, that's something we can do in an afternoon or something when we both got the time. Go up to Mama's kitchen, fire that thing up, and let's do something, even if it's wrong. Okay, now, John Kennedy, can you redo that ICS tent that you set up at Kaufman's? You mean the little military pop-up ICS tent? Yeah, we can do that. Carlos, good evening. Midlife Wanderings. It's in, starts with an H. It's something like Holden, Kentucky. It's a bushcraft expo in Kentucky. It's in the eastern, almost to West Virginia part of Kentucky. Sorry, I don't have it right up in front of me right now. I quote it, but I know it starts with an H, like Holden, Hidden, Hinden, something like that. Suck at names, guys. I'm sorry. Cool. Wow, 26 below, 23. That's pretty chilly. When it gets to be that cold, it always got me that when it gets to be that cold, I could bundle up. But it was 20 or 30 below zero, my nose. The hairs in my nose would freeze. And you'd do like that, and it was like having pins in your nose. It'd stick you. You go to bleeding. So I had to be so careful not to rub my nose or pick my nose or whatever, because the nose hairs would actually get kind of stiff on me, I guess. Hindman, Kentucky. Gen Survival, thank you. Oh, yeah, T-Boric. Ohio Valley, you can get it up there because you're getting that Canadian running south, and then it butts up against Kentucky, and it kind of like a wave gets bottled up because them high mountains right there across the river in Kentucky. A lot of them cold winds get kind of, stuck in Ohio, and temperature drops. Dan Lutz was telling me that, of course, he ran a snowplow, road snowplow for the state, one of multiple jobs that he did for the state. And he was talking about one night they were plowing a section, and it was supposed to be one of the most dangerous sections that he would always take. And the temperature just plummeted. He said, I topped this hill and my windows frosted over, everything frosted over, and my temperature gauge dropped to 55 below. He said, I was keying the mic and hollering to the other guy, so y'all seeing this? And he said, even with the windshield wipers going wide open, the defroster going wide open, he said, it just froze. My truck was freezing going down the road, and it all the gauges, the temperature of the engine started dropping like crazy. And he said he went through about 2 miles, 3 miles, and then it slowly came back out of it. He said it climbed back up because it'd been like 10 below. But he said I hit a pocket of just a must have been straight down, so it was 55, 50, 60 below. And so he was afraid the truck was going to shut down on him. And polar vortexes can create quite a few eddies and everything, and at downdraft and way up yonder comes straight down. And we don't think about the fact that at ground level it's this temperature, and the higher you go, that temperature drops like a rock. Even down here in the south, it can be 110 degrees, and you can get in a helicopter and you can go up, and it'll bring goosebumps on you. It's a cool up there real quick. So Stephen Davis, howdy. Gray Wolf, good evening. Oh, nothing much. We've just talking about various things. Talking about cooking. We talked about when my gathering's going to be in the spring, and a little bit about the silver wolf patches, and that's been about it. That was the thing. Yeah, Jeff, that's what, I mean, Dan was from Ohio, lived his whole life in Ohio. He was a hunter, trapper. He worked outdoor jobs all the time. I mean, he worked as a mechanic. He worked as a bridge inspector, a road construction inspector. He did all these jobs for the state. And he said that was the coldest he had ever seen. He thought it was a malfunction of the thermometer on the truck, which was an official snowplow. He said, but as I could hear the truck shutting down and looking at the temperature gauges and all shutting down, I knew it wasn't a malfunction. So it said only like 1 or 2 miles, and then it was out of it. So just probably one of them down eddies of severe cold. Stephen Davis, if we're gonna get some, what we're talking about is we're gonna do a silver wolf patch, and it'll be a lot cheaper because we can get a big volume. We'll order like 50 or 100 of them, and that way we can give them a much lower price. And then for the silver wolf first class, I'll see if we can do some sort of package deal where if we order so many of the plain ones and then these extra, could we get it at a cheaper price? But we're not done. We're going to work this out. Just I got sidelined for a little bit and had to get out of it. So, but we're gonna make it happen. Washburn Billy, what boots do I like? I'm wearing Marine Corps Desert Rat boots. Surplus boots is what I wear. I do have a pair of very heavy winter boots that are waterproof, but I've and insulated. But I think I've had them 10 years. I think I've worn them twice. Um, I usually just run like the military boot is what I stick with mostly. Callahan, how cold does it get down there in Alabama? Asking for as West Coast. The coldest I have ever seen it here in my life was 4 degrees with 80% humidity. This year on Duggar Mountain in February, I saw it 6 degrees with high humidity, probably 60 or 70% humidity. But that's the coldest I've ever seen it here. Of course, now I've been up north, and I used to drive a truck, so I've been all along the edge of the Canadian border. I've been in 60 below on Mount Washington. So yeah, I know what you're talking about when it's that kind of cold. Woo! Yeah, gray wolf, rotor wash, and that kind of temp. I bet it seems like it ought to it must be bone dry air because it seemed like that adding agitation to that cold air, it ought to just blow snow, invent snow, like cavitation, you know what I mean? You'd think it would be throwing ice crystals off of it. They'd be just like getting sand blasted next to one of them things. I've been up in really cold country and had that fine misty sleet blowing at high speed, and it felt like you were being sandblasted. Any exposed skin was just, you couldn't do it. You had to be completely covered. Peter, Blackie, went out in extreme cold for a long time. Why does your body feel colder when you're indoors after, say, a couple hours? It's the transition. Your body has been fighting so hard trying to generate the heat. And when you finally get into an environment or whatever where the body isn't having to fight to generate the heat, it kind of just shuts it down. The body just kind of goes, put it in neutral, and you feel cold because the warmth flows out from the core out to the extremities, and that makes you feel cold in the middle. It's just like you'll eat a big meal and you'll feel cool afterwards. That's because you've lowered your core temperature by eating and what you're eating, and it causes the body to feel that way. Same thing when you come out of extreme cold that you've been in for several hours and your body's got kind of adjusted to it, and then you step into warm and you'll start feeling cold in the warm. It's because the body realizes it and kind of shuts down and starts circulating, trying to absorb heat rather than generate the heat, you know. That's one of the things that when you've got somebody that's been in that kind of extreme, you don't warm them up in a hurry. You can kill them. Their heart will stop. You have to let them warm up gradually. And that's also one of the reasons that it doesn't make sense, but it happens. Of people who are found froze to death are quite often nude because their body fights so hard trying to stay warm, and then the body just finally says, screw it. And it lets the warm blood at the core flow back out in the arms and legs and the head and everything. And they feel like they're burning up, like they're sweating, and they go to peeling off clothes because they've been trying to stay warm, and they don't want to go to sweating, and they'll go to peeling off clothes. They're just a few minutes away from death at that point. And so you'll find them half out of their clothes or fully nude because they go to sweating and they're burning up, and it's just the body's flipping and reversing. It don't make sense, but it's the way it works. Garin, yeah, the winter of 87, 88. Yes, that was the coldest on record here in Alabama. That's where I saw it 4 degrees, was in 88 that morning. And I did have to walk to the dang bus stop, which is about right at 3/4 of a mile. And it's about a 30 to 40 mile an hour wind, and it was 4 degrees. And I had to walk and stand there. And that lady named Mrs. Baxley, she showed up when she felt like it. She may show up at 6:30 in the morning, or she may show up at 7:30 in the morning. It's just what she felt like. And so you had to be there at before 6:30, or she only went one time. And even though us students complained that, look, I was there, she's supposed to pick us up at 7:30. I was there at 7:15. Then you find out she ran through at 6:30 and picked up who was there, took them to school, and she went off and visited her friends. Yeah, and so you had to be standing down there on that street corner. It was a lot of fun, I'm here to tell you. Lewis, good. Thanks for being here. James Bowen, yeah, that's how I feel a lot of times. Once I get my motor going, I can walk in the house and, man, I'm about to burn up, you know, just hot. What? How's Grouch Francis McGowan doing? He is hanging in there as best he can. I spoke to him yesterday, and I plan on going to see him this coming week and spending some time with him. We'll be doing more um, videos together, but as you can imagine, it is an almost unbearable loss. I mean, they were married for 60 years to each other, you know, and they were both teenagers when they got married. And here they are in their 80s. And everybody always expected that, we all knew that he was going to go first. And so your entire universe is set up that way. And then she went. And so it totally, he's hanging in there. He's doing the best he can. He's a tough Marine, even at his age. But still, you know, it'd be easier to lose both legs. I don't know how I would do it. So I plan on going and spending as much time with him as I can. And he's already hinting at, we need to go. Oh, God. Last time he did that was in 2013. He said, let's go canoe go canoe the Delta down here at Mobile. And we did over 100 miles through them swamps with some big damn gators and big snakes. And it's tidal. I mean, if you go over, it's over. Oh, Thayer, good evening. Marcus, Blackie, what model of black powder shotgun do you recommend? I like a Thule to chase. That's 62 caliber smoothbore flintlock's my favorite. Now, if you're talking about a percussion gun, I had a double barrel 10 gauge Pieter for a lot of years that I loved, but they are pricey. Tim Piercy, hello, welcome to the party. Peter, in a way, yeah. Whenever I'm going to have to be outside all day on a job, I would go in as limited amount as I could, because once I've got adequate layers, once I've got the system going and I'm generating the body heat and I'm busy, if I go in, that thermal exchange happens. And when I come back out, I got to start from scratch again. And so I try to stay out until I'm done, if at all possible. So when I go in and I strip off everything, put my feet to the fire to warm up and everything and get my core come back up. I'm not in a hurry to strip off my layers either. I'll come in and keep my jacket on and keep everything on for a few minutes. When I stop feeling cool and I start feeling a little warm, then I'll start peeling and opening up layers and peel out as I'm reintegrating to the indoor environment, so to speak. But if it's in and out, in and out, I learned that driving a truck. If this is going to be a job where I'm going to be in and out of that truck 50 times in the next 2 hours of loading, unloading, moving here, whatever, we're on a site putting together a weather radar. And so you got to move the truck around a lot. I would roll the windows down, turn the heater off, just roll the windows down, and stay in it like an open air cab, because it made a difference. That in and out, in and out. And to me, I didn't get sick as much if I did that. But that constant warm to cold, always seemed to give me a chest cold in just a day or two or less. So just the way I worked with it. School bus in 89, 88, 87, 88. Yeah. Yeah, that shrimp, that was the funeral I went to, was Lady Ann, his wife. Thank you, Justin. Okay. Yeah, people can adapt to the cold. It's not a myth. It's something that's been documented. There's a certain monastery of Tibetan monks that they the only cover they have, and these are like, they're not outdoors, but they're open air. You know, they got a roof and walls, but they're big windows with no glass in them. It's just stone, right? So it's exposed to the elements all the time. And they wash the sheet. They just have a single bed sheet. It's their only covering. They wrap up to sleep in at night. And they finish meals or whatever, and they take wash the sheets, wring them out, put them around their body, and sit there and do their prayers and let their body heats dry the sheets for the night. And on the coldest night of the year, they go out in the snow, sometimes 40 and 50 below, and a wrapped only in a wet sheet, and lay down in the snow and go to sleep, because their metabolism over all these years have been conditioned to where they're just radiating heat. And you hit them with a damn thermal imager and they're over 100-degree body temp. They're just radiating heat, like a high fever, but it's the bodies have learned to adapt to such cold. I hear you, James. That's where I was. A lot of times in jobs I'd have where I'd be so hot or so cold, I would be just so drained when I got done. All I want to do is take a bath, eat something, go to bed. That was it. Stacy, Sharp's carbine thoughts. Really good guns. I've had both percussion Sharps, little more finicky, but you can work it out. For a long time, Dixie sold the mold for these, what they call the Christmas trees, in it, the way it was shaped, and worked very good for the paper cartridges. And then, of course, for the Sharps carbine and the 45, 70, etc., really good hunting carbines, quick and handy, easy to work with, easy to load. Watch primarily, Billy, I can agree with you. If I get in, I don't take a hot shower. And if I get into a hot shower, I go to sweat and I start getting nauseous. It just, my wife was a big fan of scalding lava, and she's like, "Oh, your shoulder's hurting. Let's put a heating pad on it." That's the last resort for me because contact with heat like that, or being in a hot shower, or even a hot tub, and I have had to soak many times in a hot bathtub to make a joint or something let go. But I always end up feeling nauseous in it. It just, I don't like the heat like that. Yeah, Marcus, that is true. A lot of people don't realize. Well, your waters on California are cold. What was it that Mark Twain said? The coldest winter he ever had was a summer in San Francisco. So it can be pretty cold in California, especially if you go up in any kind of elevation. What's the hardest lesson you ever learned in the outdoors? The hardest lesson I ever learned in the outdoors was when I fell in that sinkhole and realized nobody was coming, nobody was going to find you, and this was going to be my grave. And that the birds, the bees, the trees, nothing around here gives a damn. It's up to you. And so the hardest lesson I learned was that it can kill you. Even if you know what you're doing, it can kill you. And so you have to look and always, always, always look for that stupid thing that's going to get you. It ain't going to be the big obvious. It's going to be that dumb thing. Steve Irwin, if they had announced that he'd been bitten in half by a saltwater croc, all of us would have gone, "Oh yeah, it was a stingray, got him." You know, you just never know. So that's the thing. You just got to always be prepared and always realize that you're always one away from dying out here. No matter how calm it is, no matter how many people around you, no matter whatever. Um, I was good friends with somebody many years ago that they were at a big gathering, and he walked up, sat down in his chair, popped a beer, and tipped back, take a thing, and a limb fell off a tree and hit him and killed him. It took three people to pick that limb up off of him. That's how big and heavy it was. But it sheared off of that tree and hit him right then. You know, you just never know. That was a hard lesson for me, that I thought it was a place of beauty and everything else, how wild and wonderful. And the realization you could die out here and nobody will know where or how you died. That was a hard lesson for me. Oh yeah, Garen. I've seen odd. I remember. I think it was in the late '80s or early '90s. where Florida got snow, and it was like 52 or 55 degrees in Anchorage, Alaska, and they hadn't had snow all year yet. And it was on the Weather Channel, and the very next commercial that came up was sunny Florida, which I thought was hilarious. So. There, if you'll look in my land navigation series, I've got a video on how to use the Ranger beads and how to make one. Real easy. Stephen Ledring, good evening. Tibor, yeah, you can do that as well. You want to, like I said, I always wear my clothes and warm up slowly. Ronald, good evening. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. I tried to be knowledgeable. James, yes, there's going to be quite a few Rumble videos coming. I apologize again. I got sidetracked, and I'm trying to catch back up. Rewild Outdoors. Hello, brother. Welcome to the house. Ronald, cool. Those fur hoods for the M65 are great. And the 45 sleeping case to go in the sleeping bag. Awesome. Makes a great summertime sleeping bag, too. Is there a kukri you would recommend and what to look for when buying one for someone who's never used one? If you've never used one, what I recommend you to start with is go look at the Cold Steel Kukri Machete, the short one, not that long one, the short one. They're usually like 25, 30 bucks. Good piece of steel, got the right geometry. It doesn't have the weight forward, but it does have the right geometry. Get that, try the design out. See if you like the way the design works. Okay. If you do, then go look at Kukri House, Gurkha House. They're all the same company out of Nepal. And you're looking for the Afghan issue Kukri. It'll be desert tan. It'll be a full tang like mine, which means it's got two big rivets in the handle. And I think it's got little scallops on it. But that or the number 2 British issue, I can wholeheartedly vouch for. That will be a real honest to God working kukri. It will be made to use. The problem you get into is a lot of times the kukris are made for show and not for really working. The more elaborate they are, the fancier they are, the more engraved and all that stuff, it's usually a lesser quality kukri that they will pretty up to sell on the tourist market. The more plain Jane ones are more of a working kukri that you're not going to pay for all that extra embellishment. I'm looking for a tool. I'm looking for something to chop wood with. And so therefore, it's just a rule of thumb to use. Condor does have a good kukri as well. Stacy, good evening. Thanks for coming in. Ronald, the Korsman Bolo is a decent chopper as well. Drickett, good evening. I keep saying I'm going to go back and redo the cookery video. I've revisited it once or twice, a couple of times, I think. But my original cookery video, the field guide to the cookery, where I went in depth, that's one of the first things that got my channel noticed. I keep saying I need to go back and just start from scratch and do that again and actually mention more names of cookeries that I respect and I think would be a good choice. I just haven't got around to it. Grey Wolf, yes, it does. Excuse me. Told you I'm full. Now I'm getting sleepy. Um, I got a little bit of frostbite on my toes. Not bad, you know. Many, many years ago, and it took a little bit for that to get back. But I remember the first, I mean, any kind of heat, and it felt like you had a raw flame on that foot. It just burned like crazy. But it finally healed up. Bob, kukri or hawk? I prefer kukri, but that's in my climate, my environment in the semi-tropical jungles of lower Alabama. I've got a hawk too, and I love my hawks. But of the two, if you're going to tie an arm behind my back and tell me you've only picked one, it's going to be a kukri. But at the same time, I would not feel unarmed with my cold steel kukri either, or my old make 'em come handmade, make 'em cry, I should say. Um, rendezvous kukri, rendezvous hawk I've got. A chisel grind on the tip. Really, I let my tip be dull because that's my grubbing tip. I'm gonna dig with it. I'm gonna hit something. I got to break with that 1 inch of tip up there. That's mine's dull as butter up there at the tip because I'm not using it that kind of weapon. If I'm gonna use it as a weapon, it's gonna be a sideways slice. When it hits, something's falling off. So I use the tip for a digging tool, for digging in and stuff like that. And where I gotta hit and bust something, it'll be that 1 inch tip. But I know guys that sharpen theirs all the way at the edge and use the tip. That was the big thing between me and Dan Lutz. That him coming from his background, the tip of the knife is what he uses more than anything else. And so it really shocked him when he looked at mine how rounded and dull mine was on the tip. And yet it was a razor back toward the back, exactly opposite of his. And but once he figured out how to use a kukri and how I used it as a digging tool and everything else, then he began to shift over to my mindset. He did a video where he'd got a coon from a trap. The animal's already deceased, and he was going to process. And this is coon's neck was like that. I mean, this is a big coon. And I told him how I could process game with a kukri. And so he gets up there and he's going to cut the head off of the coon. He got it lined up on the stump and he went like that, and it just perfectly clean. The head just popped off like it was never there. It actually, he sent me the video and actually shocked him. It's like, and he's taking the leg bone on it to go tap. They said, you just hardly drop it on it and just shears it right off. It just falls off clean. The bone is sheared clean. It's not splintered or busted. He thought it'd busted. Well, no, just tap, tap, tap. Head and feet all off of it. You can do it. I've cleaned a deer before with a kukri before. So when you learn the edges and you got one sharp like you want, it's amazing what you can do with that knife. Blackie, what is good for fast meals besides pasta and rice packs? Instant mashed potatoes and Spam. Combine them. We call it with a little bit. Go ahead and take the dry instant mashed potatoes. Add about a third of a package of brown gravy, dry, into it. Mix it up good, and then take the Spam. Cut the Spam up into small pieces. Drop it in the bottom of the canteen cup. Heat it up for just a minute. That'll get a little grease to come out of the Spam. When it's got a little bit brown, dump water in it. Bring it up. Bring it to a boil. As soon as it comes to a boil, dump in the mashed potatoes with the gravy mix and stir it up. We call it camp taters. camp taters and ham. It's good and filling, fill you up on a cold day, and tastes good. Ronald Blackie, are you still interchanging between your outdoor sleeping bag system, the 49, and the bivy with a thermarest? Yes, it just depends on the situation. When I went up to Georgia the other day and it was going to be 29, I took the 49 mountain bag and I'd be on a cot. So I put the bivy and a heavy wool blanket, put the heavy wool blanket down, put the bivy with a thermarest in it, and then I put the uh, 49 over me as a top quilt, so to speak. And I was actually sweating. I woke up burning up and had to throw covers off. I got too hot. So, and I will carry the MS sleep system if it's going to be wet, because I don't want the down of the 49 to get wet. That's a pain in the butt to dry that thing out. Whereas the synthetic bag of the MS is a better choice for that. So that's kind of my determining factor is it wet conditions and there's a possibility my bag's going to get wet, it's MS going then. If it's not going to be and it's going to be dry, then the 49 will go. Either way. The MS is a lot lighter than the 49 when you're in it, because the 49 is that such dense and everything. It feels like somebody's laying on top of you. Don't get claustrophobic. You know, you don't, I won't even get in one zip up. I get claustrophobic, so I got to throw it around me, especially in the winter when it's really cold. My legs get bound up, and I'll wake up claustrophobic, and I get out and walk around. And so I make a point of, set myself up from the beginning to not get that way. No, I did not. I did not keep the broken handle from him. When they make him cry, I got the name. Uh, no, I have not been to that national forest. Congaree. Yeah, Garen, the chisel tip be good for digging, but like I said, I just let mine be dull. Rewild, have I played with a Condor K-Tac kukri? It looks a little bit more. I like the feel of it. It's got the weight forward feel. And that's something that you miss in a lot of these companies that make kukris, is you'll pick up my real kukri and it's like the weight's hanging out in front of it. Whereas a lot of theirs don't. It feels like the weight's in your hand. The Condor Tactical Kukri has the weight forward. It's got that funny hump on the back, but it does have the weight forward. And so I handled one at Georgia and liked it. Randy, yeah, it was being able to, could you do this? If you get where you can't do that, you're too cold. Robert, goodbye. Have a good night. Thanks for dropping by. Randy, yeah, got a skillet name. Come and get it. Oh yeah, Grey Wolf. We've had that too. We've had fat cats too that would bind your legs up in the middle of the night. They just always want to get between the legs. I'd be laying on one side, basically, and like you'd be shooting prone. That's how I'd be laying. One leg drawed up, one leg straight, and they'd get between the legs. Well, you can't roll over either way. So they got to learn to move, or I'm gonna reach down and grab a handful of fur and move them. Good night, Bear. Thanks for dropping in. Ronald, sure. I can do that on the Reddit over there, Rumble or whatever it is, Rumble. Because I'm gonna be doing all my gun stuff over there. I want to take out the SKS and do a thing to put over on Rumble. I want to take out the new flintlock and do a thing on Rumble. And I've got that transitional walker, the Whitney Walker. I want to take out and work out a hunting load for it and put on there. I've got a lot of stuff. Man, if I ran 18-hour days, I would still be behind. So I think, let me see. Okay. This is my video list of videos still to do. 4 pages. Peter, I put them in the nylon tents if I had a dirt floor or I had something to guarantee this thing won't turn over. You know what I mean? Yes, it's a risk, but it's a bigger risk with the Boy Scouts because kids, you know how kids are. You know, they're throwing blankets and legs, and if you put a open flame in a tent, they're going to throw a blanket over it, you know, or something like that. But as an adult, I found it was better to either down and away from me or up here near my head. Because if it's above the shoulder line, I ain't going to throw blankets on it. I ain't going to kick a feet on it or nothing. But just a small candle or a small lantern of some kind will do that and help out. Now, give you a preview. Speaking of that, that is a small hobo lantern I just made, and the video comes out tomorrow on the channel. I talked to James Bender and about a hobo lantern, and he did a video on the hobo lantern, and so I'm doing my take on it where I'm showing how to make this and wire the ring at so you can hook it onto a stick or something and it'll hang, sit there like that and be stable so it can't turn over. See? And so I would drive a stake in the ground and then sit this on the stake like that so it cannot turn over no matter what, and then use that for light in a camp area. But that video will come in as part of Down and Dirty Woodscraft tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Justin, an SKS or an AK? SKSs will outshoot for accuracy an AK almost every time. Are there exceptions? Absolutely. But if you had to just blind pick between the two, the SKS usually shoots a lot better accuracy wise. Everybody brags about what the reliability of the AK is. Well deserved. But I don't hear a lot of people bragging about the accuracy of an AK. You know, it'll do a kiddie pool size group at 300 yards, where I'm shooting my SKS and keeping all shots on a soda can at 100 yards. You know, so I can hunt with it. And to me, it's a hunting gun. The 7.6239 is ballistically very similar to a 30-30, and they make these really nice all lead tips that expands real well, and so makes a good hunt round. So it's like a semi-automatic 30-30. And so my dense woods and stuff, yeah. But that'll be coming up in a future video. Johnny, yeah, he does a great job with it. He's doing a lot of research on the hobo. Bushcraft with the Preacher, good evening. Yes, Ronald, talking about using the old canvas uh, version of the 1 quart U.S. Army canteen from like World War II and, excuse me, Korea, Vietnam, had that wool like liner in it. And so it could be used as a pot cozy because I have taken and cooked in a canteen cup and I have to cook something else over there and I don't want this to get cold. And I can just slide it and put the lid on it and slide it down in that cover and fold the top over and help it hold the heat and use it like a pot cozy. I've done that several times. Now the nylon ones don't have that liner and they don't hold any heat, so it's just a carry bag. But the old World War II type with the fuzzy does do a good job with that. Will Am I planning on doing any more being sneaky? Yes, but they're going to be put over onto Rumble uh, because of this platform. But yes, and I'm talking with somebody right now about doing some stuff with that. So there's going to be more stuff coming with that being sneaky. It's just that platform is much more open to ideas for educational purposes only. Peter, those that candle lanterns are selling from is, yeah, they can be. The ones that the little retractable up and everything, those can be, does just as good a job. But the whole thing about it is just to keep it from tipping over. I tell you what I like to do, and you're gonna laugh, but it worked. Um, One of these old things like this, I take a U.S. Army pup tent, seal it up around the edge real good with pine straw or whatever, make my bed inside for the ground pounding, and then I would put it at the far end of the tent, well away from the edge and everything, and sit it down, and I'd light all three of those wicks. And that would keep the temperature in, with my body heat plus this, would keep the temperature inside that well above freezing. If it was down to like 20s and 30s, 20s, 25, I've done it. And it would keep it felt a lot warmer. I'm not saying it made it a heck of a, it didn't bring up the temperature to 85. You're not laying there in your shorts, but it certainly, you didn't get as cold. And when I introduced this trick to Trapper Dan, we were up there at Dan Lutz's and we were camping out. That's when it was 17 degrees that night. And he was in a U.S. Army pump tent on the ground. And the first night was pretty cool. And on the way back, for the second night, I told him we grabbed one of them candles. And he put the candle in there and it made all the difference in the world. The next day, he said, I never woke up cold. And it was actually colder the second night. He said, but it made a difference. And that was an old trick they did in the military. These little lanterns like this and everything, guys would come up with all kinds of tricks trying to stay warm, you know. Yes, Johnny, if you wet that cover, it helps cool the water in the summertime by evaporation, correct? Dale, thank you very much. Glad you like the Silver Wolves videos. Marcus, I have never done that. I have never had a big deer mounted or a big hog or whatever. Um, it just wasn't a thing to me and my family. We were hunting for meat. And, oh man, nice rack on it, big tusk on the hog. Yeah, but in fact, let me tell you, there was the place in North Enterprise was the North Main Spur off of Main Street. And that's where all the old men hung out to play high stakes checkers. I've seen $1,000 bet on a checker game before, guys, in the 60s. I mean, that was, that was the den of illegal gambling. But there was a restaurant right next door named Bandy's, and so the gentleman that ran Bandy's came over and got my granddaddy one afternoon and went to whispering to him. They talked back and forth, and he nodded and said, "Okay." Granddaddy came over to me and he said, "Remember that Army fellow wanted to go hunting? You think you got his number?" I found his number and called the guy, and by luck, he was available. And so me, him, and Granddaddy went hunting. And he told that guy, he said, "Now you're going to walk down the center of the dirt road. I'm going to be on the right. My grandson's going to be on the left. And the deer should pop up either to you or me in about 150 yards. So just be ready." That's how well Granddaddy knew where that deer was going to be bedded down at. And so we were easing along through there, and that deer jumped up and ran out in front of my Granddaddy, and Granddaddy dropped it. Had this beautiful 12-point rack on it. I mean, it did not look like a white tail. It looked like a small elk, more like a black tail size, and a big fat boy. And of course, the GI that was with us, he brings out this little tape measure and he starts calculating horns. We got in the back of the truck. 2 days later, he showed back up North Main and was looking for my Granddaddy, and Granddaddy was in there playing checkers. And he come up to him and said, "We got to get it officially measured. It's the number 2 state record." And Granddaddy looked like, "A record for what?" He said, "It's the number 2 state record for inches." Uh-huh. And he pointed to me and said, "Go get the box." And I come walking out with the box. We'd cut the rack up and made knife handles out of it. That's what the guy next door for the restaurant wanted, knife handles. So that's the reason Granddaddy went after that deer, was to make knife handles. We cut them up. Half the time we'd take a rack or something and hacksaw it off the head and turn it into knife handles or buttons or whatever. So I just never got around to ever wanting to mount something like that. I mean, other people wanted big old mounts and stuff, and I know a lot of guys, good friends, that have big game animals in their den. I have a friend that has a moose. You come in, the blades on that thing are about like 6.5, 7 feet wide. It's ridiculous, And he's got a Cape buffalo, and he's got a buffalo head, and several other. He's independently wealthy. He can afford such things. But it's just one of the things that never got me. I'm sorry. Bill Van, why do you say that the beeswax candles are a waste? One, they're much more expensive, and they burn a lot hotter. Beeswax burns at 400 degrees. Paraffin burns at 100 and something. So they generate a lot of heat, but at the same time, they are a lot more expensive. An old trick, try this with any kind of candle. Put it in the freezer for a day or two before you take it to the field. Even paraffin wax, it makes them burn longer. Even when it warms up, something about getting them that cold causes the molecular or whatever to be denser, and they'll burn longer. Ronald, I have not, and I really should do an update on the fire kit. So we will add that to the list right now. Fire kit update. EDC plus fire kit. Update. Okay, we added it to the list. And I will get to it. Jeff Conley, you would think, but to be honest, I never have any trouble coming up with content for it. I really don't. And 99% of you guys, you'll ask a question like that. Okay, I'll add a fire kit. And I never run out of it. And that's one of the reasons I'm excited about expanding into Rumble and doing stuff over there, because I know as much about guns as I know about bushcraft. So I want to do some videos about tactical shotguns. I want to do 38, 307, 9mm, 45 ACP. You know, let's talk about 30-30, 30-06, 270, 308, 243, 223. You know, let's talk about the AR platform. Let's talk about the SK and the AK platform. How about an M1 carbine? How about an M1 Garand? You know, I'm there's people that know me that come to talk to me, don't know a thing about woodscraft, bushcraft, and the only thing they want to talk about is guns. So I've got a ton of information still locked up in here I ain't even tapped into yet. Oh yeah, Ronald, I have hammock. Go look at my hammock. I've got a hammock playlist, and I've done that about the hammocks that I carry right now are one wind hammocks. Great hammock for the money. Really, really good. This is like year. I think I got, I want to say I got my one wind hammock in 2016, and I'm still using that hammock, you know, and I've upped and added all kinds of stuff with it. And I probably camped 200, 300 times now in that hammock. That's not an exaggeration. And it holds up, it's rock solid. So yeah, go look at my hammock camping series where I talk about different kinds of hammocks. I've got small pocket hammocks, mesh hammocks, the big hammocks. You know, I've got a whole playlist on hammocks. Pitching them close to the ground so you can be next to a fire. James Bowen, I use a custom blend that I come up with, but the closest thing that you can go buy off the shelf is something called Black Duck, as in quack quack. Black Duck is 80% of it. I just add a little bit more Latakia and Perique to mine. Oh, Grey Wolf, yeah, man. Beeswax using 1,001 things. Oh, yeah, okay. Bill, man, I hear you. That's one of the things. That little candle lantern that takes a certain size candle that you just can't go buy a candle for and fit into it. And you're kind of at the mercy of those manufacturers for those candles. And that's where those Yukios and stuff, that's where they're making their money is in the candles. They just about would give you the lantern because you're going to have to buy the candles from them. But I've often wondered how hard it'd be to make my own mold, you know? James P. Borkham Riff was that way with me. Consistent. You could find it everywhere back then. It's hard to find now locally. But yeah. Now, Grey Wolf. Why would you want an M1 if you don't like the M14? I didn't say I didn't like the M14. I said it's a big, heavy 308 that a bolt action is a better choice for a hunting gun. Same thing with the M1 Garand. You know, big, heavy gun. Don't mean I don't like it. Heck, I like a Sharps too. You know, I had a Sharps with a heavy, extra heavy bull barrel on it. The gun was 14 and a half pounds and a 45 120. You know, I had a 5090 Sharps that was a 16 pounds with that near about 3-inch diameter barrel on that thing, you know, for long range work. Love it. I wouldn't tote it far, but, you know, I just love the history in the guns. Blackie, what are your thoughts on the 7mm Odd 8? Really good cartridge for deer and elk at close range. It does really well. Marcus, thank you very much. William, Blackie, how's your book coming along? Very slowly. I keep getting drug into all these other projects on the side, and I've edited out, I'd say about half of it has been edited out to where I'm about ready for somebody, a friend of mine, to do a test read. We shall see. Um, but I'm still working on it. What kind of pipe do you like to smoke? Oh boy. We got a 3 dot Sassini. I've got a Peterson pack pipe, is one of my favorites. I was given an Alpha from Israel by Grouch, apple shaped. I also like, I've got a Missouri Meerschaum, the apple shaped one, not the corn cobby thing, the big corn cob, but the corn cob is that one. That's a really good smoking pipe. And then I've got a couple of, I've got a elaborate Meerschaum that I inherited from a good friend of mine. So I've got probably about 15 or 20 in my collection of various ones I picked up over the years. But if you're going to tie me down and say grab one, it's probably going to be that Peterson pack pipe. It's probably going to be the number one. That or the Alpha. Oh, cool, Ronald. Glad that detergent does good. Then, okay, good to know. Thanks, Jerry. Hello. Well, now, Gray Wolf, you're up in a part of the country where at 30 carbine be a little bit light for up where you're at now. To be honest, where the 14 and which is 308 and the M1, which is in 30-06, would be more adequate up in your big country. That 30 carbine is a little light. The man, that 30 carbine is just so light and quick and handy. A lot of fun to shoot, especially with a 30 round mag. They're a lot of fun. Randy, yes, Kinnikinnick, I have. And I was a pipe holder for a while, um, in ceremony and stuff like that. Oh, cool, Ronald, good. Oh yeah, Jerry, Harm's Way, really good movie. Otto Preminger, John Wayne, Kirk Douglas. I believe I want to say that's Rob. It's either Robert Mitchum or his brother's first. It's where he's the one standing there telling the captain that the Eddington is hell on wheels, and then he collapses. He's wearing a T-shirt. I think that was Mitchum's first role. Grey Wolf, no, Kinnikinnick is a natural blend of herbs. It's a smoking tobacco. Bill, try taking your petroleum candles, the not remembering the right name, but anyway, taking the candles and put them in the freezer and get them good and cold, and see if they don't burn better and longer for you. We did that back in living history, and we're only allowed to have candle lanterns. And we learned that there used to be a place you saw in the malls years ago called Wicks and Sticks, and it was candles, all kinds of fancy designer candles and everything else. and you walk in and say, "Got any broken ones?" And they'd have, tapers and everything that broke or snapped. You'd pick them up for pennies on the dollar, and we'd use them in candle lanterns and live in history. And we learned to put them paraffin wax. We learned to just put them in the freezer a day or two ahead, and it made them burn better and cleaner, and didn't run as much. They burned a lot more completely, and they burned longer. Garen, I saw one of those Ruger 44 Magnums Deer Slayer carbines at the gun show this past weekend. I think he wanted like $750 for it, which I thought was a decent price considering how rare they are nowadays. Ronald, Blackie, would you be doing best of video for the end of the year 2023? Not that I know of. I have enough trouble trying to put out what I do, more or less going back. Man, I don't even want to know how many I put up this year. I'm averaging 3 a week, which would be what, 150, and for 100, no, 156 for the year, and then there are a lot of others added in, so there's a lot. I'd hate to have to go all the way back through that and do a compilation out of one. That'd be really awkward. It'll kill. Good evening. Jerry, the quality can be really good, or and you normally can tell it when you get it. What I suggest you do is order the ones that Sportsman's Guide are really usually pretty good. And what you do is when you get it, turn it inside out and look inside of it. See what the sewing looks like. If the sewing is sort of send it back. They'll take it back. On the other hand, if it seems to be fairly well sewed together, you'll probably get several years of good use out of it. And you can get it in the bigger sizes and the smaller sizes from them. Bill Van, I got you. Well, put them outside. D Hunter, wet a hook. Hello there. Yeah, Bill, I remember seeing I want to say it was in Vermont. It was a historic building from the 1700s in Vermont. And they had a storage building outside. And part of the tour was they showed you that when you went into the storage building, you came in, and then there was a root cellar in the ground that you went down like a half story down in the ground to where the root cellar was. And at the bottom of those stairs, the first thing in the root cellar was a candle box. They kept all the candles in it, and they pointed out they kept them cold year round to make them burn better. And that was original, being made beeswax or whatever candles in the 1700s. So it kind of stuck in my head when I took that tour in mid 80s. Marcus, Blackie, what's worse, ticks or mosquitoes for spreading diseases? I believe they would, people in authority would probably tell you it's mosquitoes. But down here in my neck of the woods, it's about a 50-50, Good news with ticks is they got to be on you a little bit, even for Lyme. They need to be on you for a while. So you do checks a couple times a day. Every time you got to go to the bathroom, you check. And you prevent a lot of that. And once you realize, oops, got a tick on me, you look for the bullseye. If you got the bullseye, immediately go in and get them to give you the antibiotics, and you can beat getting really sick from it. Whereas they had West Nile fever down here and a couple other things that popped up with the mosquitoes. Somebody even claimed they got malaria down in Florida, but I hadn't seen any other evidence. I just heard about it, and then, hadn't seen or heard anything else beyond that. It'll kill. Blackie, do you do anything about preserving food with lard? If so, will you explain? Bear does that. He puts sausage and lard together and preserves like that. In fact, I had a jar of it and took one of the events and cooked and ate it. So you want to talk to Bear, go look at Bear's Old Ways channel, hit him up on any of his videos and ask him about it. Tell him you want to see a video about doing the lard and for preserving. That'd be a good video for me and him to do. Ronald, good. Glad you like it. Glad you got your 65. William Coates, good night. Johnny, thank you very much. I do my best. I don't do these videos trying to make money. It's nice that I do. That's my source of income now, but I'm doing it trying to spread the information. And I want very desperately to give you a working idea, if nothing else, of a topic, whatever we're talking about in a video. Because I approach it that you don't know what I'm about to talk about. And a lot of guys that are more advanced kind of get on to me about, Blackie, it ain't got to explain all that. Not for you. For this guy he's just getting into it. He's never even heard of a such and such. Then that's the reason I go a little more in depth, because I want both the guys that's got a lot of experience to be able to find something of interest, and the guys that are just getting started, they have no idea, to have at least come away from a video with a working knowledge. That's my goal. Loving me some outdoors. Are you afraid to camp under a tarp? I have this false sense of security by a tent with black bears around. Actually, I prefer to be open where I can look out. I prefer to camp in a hammock with a tarp over me so I can look out and see. Being, like you're saying, being completely enclosed in a tent, you don't know what just walked up the tent. But either way, I'm not scared to do either one. And I have done both of them for many, 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 many years. But I know people that unless they've got a fully enclosed tent, floor, ceiling, mosquito net, everything else, they ain't going to go because they don't feel safe. And I understand that. It's a environment they've not had a lot of time in, and so they haven't had time to become comfortable in it. But to be honest, I'm more comfortable in the pitch dark, laying on the ground under a diamond or under a lean-to in the middle of the woods with the bugs and everything singing around me. I lay down and go to sleep. I am 10 times more comfortable right then than I am sitting in a waiting room in a big city. I mean, that's when I can't sleep because all these people moving around me. It's an alien environment to me. To even get in a hotel room coming through, on a long trip, you got to spend the night. It's just hard for me to go to sleep because of that. You can put me in the middle of the woods, I'll go to sleep in 5 minutes. You put me in a locked door hotel and I'm sitting there listening to every sound because it's an alien environment. It's what you're accustomed to. I've seen, it might have been James Bender may have done a video not long ago, like last year or so, on a candle mold, to make his own candles for Yukio. Stephen Davis, yes, it did. When he read that book, we had to read that book when I was in school, and where it talked about that the guy going along and the piles of rat droppings on top of this half cow. He could scoop up handfuls of them. They were just covered in rat vermin. And they would just take them and brush it off and take it out onto the floor to sell it. You know, that was a tough sell. And they said that after Theodore Roosevelt read that book, he did not eat meat unless he killed it and processed it himself for over a year. So, well, it's been 1 hour. Ooh, excuse me. Sorry, guys. Been 1 hour and 45 minutes. So we're going to be getting off here in just a minute. Guys, I want to thank you very much for spending Thursday night and taking your time to come and visit. I really do appreciate it. And I really like your questions. Y'all got really good questions and things coming up, and I really do appreciate that. I've got more videos coming out. I've got that oil lantern video coming out tomorrow on how to make that. And not sure what I'm doing for Sunday yet. I've got 2 or 3 things to work on that. But other than that, we're going to keep making videos. And I greatly appreciate y'all. I really, really do. So if I haven't said it yet to you, I hope y'all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'll be back on next Thursday night. Same bat time, same bat channel. Till then, guys, y'all take care. Have a good evening.